Welcome to UNBOXED on Purpose, where authentic purpose comes to light. Breaking limits on this journey, letting dreams flutter freely into flight. Flutter into freedom, flutter freely in God's light.
I greet you with Jesus' joy, for it is in Jesus that I live, I breathe, I move, and I have my very being. I'm so delighted that you have joined Unboxed on Purpose podcast today. We are created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon, your host. And joining us today is Bruce Koerber. We will be unboxing the notion that the divine economy theory will set you free. Let's find Bruce Koerber and add him to the stage right now. Hey, Bruce, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Barbara.
Excellent, excellent. I'm so glad that you are here today. Let me give a little brief bio about Bruce right now. He is, you see how his name is spelled, but it's pronounced Koerber. Bruce Koerber is a horticulturist / economist who lives in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he's the author and originator of the divine economy model and the divine economy theory. He is an economist in the classical liberalism tradition. He is a twin. He also has twin daughters who are adults now. As an adult, he moved from, check this out, all these states, Pennsylvania to Mississippi to Alabama to Arizona to Wisconsin and then to Iowa. Now, why Iowa? His wife is from Iowa. So with enough of that being said, Bruce Koerber, thanks again for being on the Unboxed on Purpose stage.
That was a beautiful introduction. Very complete, and you told my whole story in 2 minutes.
Well, we didn't tell it all. I saved quite a few things for you to share with us. For example, tell our audience how we met or how we know each other.
Well, we know each other because we have a mutual friend, Wade Franson. I spoke on his podcast, and apparently he introduced you to podcasting, from what I understand. And so then him and his crew, or his group of people, they suggested that I contact you and that you might be interested in having me on your podcast.
Absolutely fantastic. Indeed, Wade Franson has been a vital part of developing this ministry umbrella called podcasting. He was my third guest, and a lot of the things that I do on this show have been patterned after the things that I gleaned from him in my early days of podcasting. I so appreciate his friendship and the Soup Broadcast Network that he is responsible for creating. Well, all that being connected, let's go ahead and jump into the life of Bruce Koerber. When you think about your teen years, your younger days growing up as a boy, we know where you grew up with all those states I had in the bio, but tell us what your passion in life seemed to be as you reflect on those early days.
Well, my early days were very simple. I loved playing in the woods. I loved looking for crayfish in the creek behind our house. I liked playing as I got older. One of the passions I had, we had a public golf course not far, and off the fairway there was a big field, and we would play field hockey every day. And also then we lived, that golf course was part of a county park, and so I did a lot of walking in nature as a young person.
That sounds interesting. I'm trying to connect those dots to how you eventually got connected to being an economist, but that horticulturist side of you is definitely coming out. We'll
Yeah.
find more out about that passion in childhood or where that economy thing came from in just a moment. But let's just find out a little bit more about the energetic Bruce that you are. How would you describe your perfect day?
My
What would
perfect
make a day perfect for you?
Well, usually get up early, and I think having good, uh, beautiful experience in prayer and meditation is always the most important part of my day and the way it starts. And then during the day, just to encounter people and be, experience the kindness that people can show, and then my wife and I, every evening we play cribbage. That's a big highlight of our day. And then I think I really enjoy having a good night's sleep. So that will be how my day ends, hopefully.
It seems like a peaceful kind of endurance with all the simple pleasures of life. And so, as we're still in the early days of who Bruce is, and I'm not saying was, because all of your younger days spill into who you have become. And I can say that to anybody. It's not just particularly to Bruce. Just let sure the audience understands that the show is all about purpose. And the generic questions that I ask help the show to go in any direction because every guest is different. So, who really saw you as a person in your early journey, and what do you think they spoke into your life? Who was maybe an influencer in your life in the early days, and what exactly was it that they spoke into your life that helped you pursue your purpose?
Well, I think my grandmother, I know that my grandmother was my spiritual mother. And it wasn't when I was in my mid teens, I started to be influenced by her and recognize that myself in myself a spiritual hunger and a spiritual interest. And so I think that was really important for me as I went on later in life to have this search and quest for understanding spiritual things in terms of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was the most important person in that early period of my life.
Is there anyone else maybe later in life that you would say was also an influencer? She got you started. Anybody else that you want to bring up at this time that influenced who you have become?
Well, I have the story to tell you about myself, but at one point, I had I had teachers throughout my life that were significant, but the one who was most significant was a man named Dr. Roger Garrison, and he was a tremendous teacher because he had a great sense of humor, and he was able to uh, basically introduce me to what is called Austrian economics, and
Uh-huh.
he was my mentor, and so that I guess that is a foundational in my life.
That's what I'm knocking on the door of. So, if you had to unbox one lesson that shaped who you are today, what would that be?
Well, I think that my interest all throughout my life, although I was not really keenly aware of it until you start asking these questions, was that I seem to have a strong sense of justice. That I was always kind of attracted to issues that were related to justice, and I was keen on that. So um, when I saw things going on around me, that's what caught my attention. And so I think that helped me to, and maybe it was part of, no, I think the fact that I had that relatively strong sense of justice always made me kind of a critical thinker. And so I wouldn't take things just for granted. I kind of evaluated it in terms of justice in my own thoughts and heart.
I'm making sure that we slowly segue into this divine economy theory. So you're slowly getting us there, and that's the best way that I want this to happen. This is just wonderful. And so now let's connect a particular dot from being this person who's critical, not in a negative sense, but inquisitive and wanting the justice, and connect those dots to economy and becoming an economist.
Well, the dots don't really connect very clearly, other than the idea that I was always willing to doubt or to question traditional ways of doing things. Because what happened when I finally encountered Austrian economics, it was in a situation where even at the institutional level, there were a couple individuals who were Austrian economists, but they were not the majority, and all the mainstream of economics was not receptive to Austrian economics. But I didn't really care about that. What I cared about was did it make sense? Was it fruitful? Did it enable me or anyone who was acquainted with it to penetrate deeply, to understand the world and how it and what its real potential is, rather than the other way seemed, again, with this critical thinking, when I was open to the idea that there's other possibilities. Once I became familiar with the Austrian economics, it seemed like all the other approaches to economics was simply like playing a game, and I wasn't interested in playing games. So
Right.
I wanted to know the real story and how to make sense of what. And again, so one of the interesting things about Austrian economics is it has a long tradition, that its roots are classical liberalism, and classical liberalism, basically the beauty of it, that most people maybe don't even know about classical liberalism, but the beauty of it that I'm going to share is that it recognized the harmony of science and religion. And
We're
so
going to pause right there.
Okay.
We're going to pause right there, because I do want you to very clearly and succinctly define what is meant by Austrian economy, and go ahead and pour all those puzzle pieces out, because you've been dancing around it. We're going to pause for a moment and invite others to be a guest on the show. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Do you have a story to share? A journey that shaped you? A message that could inspire someone else to keep going? Favored by the Father Ministries invites you to be a featured guest on the Unboxed on Purpose podcast, a space where real stories are shared, hearts are uncovered, and lives are impacted. Your voice matters, your experiences matter, and someone, somewhere, needs what you carry. If you're ready to speak, to inspire, and to be part of something meaningful, we are now booking guests. Visit favoredbythefather.com/contact us and take your seat at the table. Unboxed on Purpose, where your story is not just told, it is released with intention.
Welcome back, Bruce Koerber, to the Unboxed on Purpose stage. We were talking a moment ago about the Austrian economy theory. Would you clearly define for us what that is? What is that in the first place?
Well, the reason it's called Austrian is because there was a University of Vienna in Austria, where an individual in the 1881 is when he wrote the book that started the Austrian school. His name was Karl Menger. What he did, and this is interesting because three individuals around the world at this time in economics had identified the idea that decisions are made at the margin, meaning it's kind of at the instant that it's necessary to make a decision. That's the margin when it's made. Prior to that, it just wasn't understood. But there were three people in different parts of the world that had kind of discovered that at the same time. But only one of them, which was Karl Menger in Austria at the University of Vienna, that said that not only is it done at the margin, but it's done by individuals who make their decision subjectively. And that's what's unique about Austrian economics. It looks at all action motivated by subjective decisions and subjective valuations instead of some kind of mathematical, empirical kind of approach. It became a qualitative approach based on human action. So that's what was unique about Karl Menger, and the Austrian school basically kept that movement, that understanding of subjective valuation, which that's what makes Austrian economics different from any other school of economics.
And so you've got divine economy theory that you're bringing to the table today, something that you've created. Would you tell us the nuts and bolts of that? Bottom line, to our audience, we have intergenerational folks listening, so even the youngest person will be able to understand what you mean when you say divine economy theory. What's that all about?
Well, again, Austrian economics or Karl Menger, that line, it's basically a continuation of a tradition which is called classical liberalism. And classical liberalism was this contributions of thought that were made by monks. So early on, they were trying to understand how Christianity could be, how the world could be understood through the Christian thought and just in the world itself. So these monks, they were investigating this nexus between human action and faith. So classical liberalism basically recognized that religion and science were one. And the early contributions that they made is what laid the foundation for what is now known as the science of economics. If you trace the science of economics back to its origin, it came from these monks who were identifying certain principles and certain laws that humans operated by, and recognized that they're operating that way because that's their spiritual inheritance. That's how humans are spiritual beings. So
let's fast forward this to what you created and how that can help people today.
So basically what happened is I'm an Austrian economist, but not all Austrian economists believe in God, but I do. And I'm firmly in the classical liberalism tradition, where I recognize this essential unity and harmony of science and religion. So anyways, what happened was I had a dream in 2004, and I know that I don't remember my dreams, but somehow during this period, I had the intuition to have a pencil and paper on my nightstand. So I had this dream, and it kind of shocked me. It woke me up, enough to be conscious that I needed to write it down. I wrote down what I dreamt, and I wrote it down because I know I don't usually remember my dreams. So in the morning, I knew I had dreamt. I didn't know what it was. I looked at the paper that I had written it down on. I don't know, thinking there were words there, but there weren't words. It was a diagram. It was a picture, like a flower, 4 petals in a center. And the center was divine economy. And then there were 4 petals. There was human spirit, transformation, law, and order. Those were the components of it. But because I'm an Austrian economist, and because I'm aware of the essential harmony of science and religion, I knew it was a significant contribution to economics. Like I said, most Austrian, or a significant number of Austrian economists don't even believe in God. So if they would have had that dream, it would have meant nothing to them. But because I do, I saw it, and I knew it wasn't anywhere in the literature. It would never, nobody ever had talked about it before. So I knew it was significant, and then I just started to develop it using my training as an Austrian economist. So that's where the economy came into being.
This is interesting to me because I'm looking at the title that you've given to the show about the divine economy theory will set you free. And so you've given us the origin. What is that all about? It will set you free. How can a theory set me free?
Well, again, I think we're in a world that has lost its way, does not understand that humans are spiritual beings, that God is the creator. And so not only us as individuals are we, if you have that understanding, you understand that you have all of the qualities that God has given you when you were created. You have the capacity to be loving, to be merciful, to be just, to be kind, to be powerful. All the quality names and attributes of God are part of you as an individual have been given that by the creator, and it's us uniquely with that blend of qualities as we learn through life to find those things that we're exceptional at, and to bring that into the world. So that's what happens with us as individually. But God is greater than that. God is even more powerful. God not only created us with all that, he also created a divine institution that enables us to prosper, enables us to be not only a spiritual being, but a social being. And that aspect of being a social being is what enables us to be prosperous, to bring about the kingdom of God on earth, so that everyone is prosperous, that everyone's qualities can shine. And what that divine institution is the economy. And so what the divine economy theory does is it shows what the economy looks like in its pure form, and shows individuals how to make that come into reality. So that's what it's about. And so that once a person knows that the economy is really a gift from God, and that we are gifts from God, that sets us free. and enables us to bring that into reality.
I don't even know what I want to ask at this point, but there's some connection I want you to expound upon with that whole idea of freedom, the whole idea of what economy is, perhaps from the viewpoint of the average listener who doesn't have the background in economy. I am not an economist. A lot of my listeners are not persons heavily involved or barely involved in the economy, except that they are consumers. Trying to get some connections for the average listener, knowing things or what they need to know that will set them free.
Well, here's another aspect of Austrian economics, which is different from other schools, and that's foundational in the divine economy theory. Economics is really the study of human action. And the divine economy theory then adds to that human action is partly is strongly influenced by the person's valuations, which cannot be separated from their spiritual nature. You know, even a person who is completely atheist, when they buy something, it's because they're attracted to something. Not, I mean, if they buy a red car, it's because, and you know, a sports car, they like the power and the beauty of it. See, that's truly what's behind their decision. And what is this power and beauty? Those are names of God. See, they might not know it. So basically, it's the divine economy theory releases us from the shallow understanding. You know, like for instance, as a consumer, the shallow understanding that you're doing it because you like a fast car, a beautiful car, but really it makes you really appreciate and understand. And once you have greater understanding, you're more likely to be able to bring about the prosperity in your heart and around you, because you're actually putting into practice the power of God.
This is great stuff, I think. I know you've put a lot of time into preparing for this particular podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything else you would like for us to know about your work, about you or about your work, to give more light to the title of the show?
Well, I think basically what it is, and I don't know at what point a person is going to really appreciate the idea that the divine economy theory is really a modernization of classical liberalism. Why is that important? Because that is where the harmony of science and religion rests in the science of economics. So the divine economy theory is a seed that has germinated, and it's growing, and it's growing into a mighty tree that will nourish and shelter all of humanity, because it's that understanding and the world that reflects that protects us from the materialistic approach. And basically this materialistic approach is relatively, I mean, you could classify it as ungodly. You know, we want to become more spiritual, and we want to be able to have the ability to make the world around us more spiritual. And so there's really no separation from science and religion in that sense, because you can become more spiritual by knowing how the world works. And the way to know the way the world works is to see it in its pure form, which is what the divine economy theory does. It shows that. There's the other thing about the divine economy theory that's unique. First of all, I used a methodology which is called subjectivism, and it's this part of this Austrian tradition. But basically, I built these models that are at the heart of the theory using subjective methodology. And so, in other words, so I don't know how many people have seen, when they've encountered economics, it's very dry. There's diagrams and stuff, and they're really they don't really excite you. Whereas the diagrams in the divine economy theory are connected to the spiritual qualities and the spiritual, like for instance, in the micro approach of the divine economy theory, it shows the tablets of the hearts, and that the tablets of the hearts, what's written on those? Those are the names and attributes of God. And so, like for instance, if a person wants to be an entrepreneur, which microeconomics is about producing so that you can consume, you want to be able to generate income so that you have income to buy things that you want, that things that pleasing to you. So the approach in divine economy theory is, well, to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to provide people with what they want. And to know what they want, you have to it helps to know the names and attributes of God that they're seeking. So then you are able to give them what they want. So anyways, that's just an example of the difference. It goes so much deeper, and it's so much more connected to the human reality, but it's also done through diagrams that reflect reality. They reflect the names and attributes of God. They reflect the law, the laws, the order, the spiritual, the human spirit, and transformation. So imagine this: how could you, in the traditional economics, where would you ever find diagrams that show you what transformation looks like? That's something
not in economy.
Yeah, it's in the divine economy theory. So that's what's different, and it's in
Right.
beautiful diagrams that are logical and exciting, rather than dry and incomprehensible.
So when our audience takes a look at your website, www.divineeconomytheory.com, they would find these images?
Yes, yeah, it is on my website, and also my website, lets you know about the books that I've written that they're in. So, but even on the website itself, there's examples. You can go in and look at the diagrams. It'd be better to have a thorough description of them, which is in the books. But yeah,
Right. Tell us about how many books have you written? Because you're saying the books. What have you written?
I've written 8 books. The first 4 are core books, and those are the ones that I wrote initially. Initially, I had the image. The image appeared to me, and I decided to unfold it. And at that point, that was the beginning of the divine economy theory. But the model has 4 parts to it. Like I said, 4 petals. So when I wrote that first book, it was about all the petals together, like the macro.
Yeah.
And then I decided to go deep inside And that's where the micro came up. And then there was these two other petals that I hadn't discussed, which was law and order. And the connection between human spirit and transformation. That was the ethical strand. And then law and order was the justice strand. So there's 4 books, one macro, one micro, one ethical economics, and one economic justice. So those are the core books. Then I wrote I combined just the micro and macro and made a textbook for economics, because most people, when they learn economics, they learn micro and macro. So I combined those two and made a book on that. It's a textbook of comprehensive economics. Then I have all 4 of those books combined together as a magnum opus, which is the book is called Divine Economy Theory. Then what happened is I was going around trying to market this information, and I learned from the gurus in marketing that you really have to provide people with something to the point. And
yes,
what I did is I made a book called The Divine Economy Model, which traces that model through all 4 books. And this is and that's one of them. And then the last one I wrote was about predictive economics, which basically helps people see one of the things about economics is what good is it if you can't predict with it. And the other ways of economics, it's like shooting a rifle, okay, towards a target, but your aim is off at the beginning. It's even going to be farther off when it gets to the final target. So that's what traditional economics does. It's like shooting a bullet, but off target. So it's when it gets there, it's way off the mark. Whereas the divine economy theory, using predictive economics of the divine economy theory, the aim is correct. So when you shoot it, it hits the destination, and that's what predictive economics should be about. So that's the last of those 8 books is about predictive economics.
you have truly taught us something, and you have whet our appetites for diving into economy in a different way. And so we want to thank you so much for being on the Unboxed on Purpose stage. And we've given your website out, www.divineeconomytheory.com. And so those who choose to go to that site to grab your books on Amazon will find out even more of the details. We'll have the images of some of your things visible on this screen once we do our editing. So again, Bruce Koerber, thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your time today. You've encouraged us to dig a little bit deeper into understanding how economy really is a divine entity. Any parting words?
I'm just grateful to you, Barbara, for letting me present this information about the divine economy theory, and hopefully people decide that what they've experienced in the past about economics is garbage, and that they go for the real thing, the raw, real economics of the divine economy theory.
That really tickles me when you said what you did about something being garbage, because it's like maybe I need to take another look at it myself. However, thank you again. I'd like to turn to the audience for sure now and just invite everybody to come back with us again next week. We share our episodes on Thursdays on the most podcast platforms. I upload them to my YouTube channel, and then we share them out to various platforms. So some are listener and some are viewer. And so God bless you all for being a part of this today. I want you to be encouraged in your whole life. And so we are unboxed on purpose for a purpose. We want to be fluttering freely and understanding what divinity and what it means to be divine, created in the image of God. So picture yourself being like these little butterflies in my logo, fluttering freely, as high to as lofty a level as the Lord will allow you to go, according to the choices that you make in life. So please continue to grow in grace which is God's special favor, and remain favored by the Father. Hope to see you again next week.
Very good.
Looking for deep encouragement, healing, and divine alignment? Your next chapter starts here, announcing 3 powerful new releases from Dr. Barbara A.F. Brehon, designed to ignite your purpose and mend your heart. These ministry resources were created to support healing, honest reflection, and restoration, to provide space for honest conversation and movement from fracture toward fullness. Available now. Visit favoredbythefather.com or order your copies today on Amazon. We simply pray that every person who encounters these pages will know that we want to walk with you through your spiritual journey. Grow in grace, God's special favor, and always remain favored by the Father.
You were made with purpose, an authentic purpose you can claim. Keep unboxing every blessing. Let your spirit flutter freely in Jesus' name. Until next time, keep flying boldly. Keep living fully, heart open wide. This is Unboxed on Purpose, where your story